What's going on, YouTube? Here we are back another week, and that means another episode of ST with Keith. For those who don't know, my name's Keontae. Just I make this podcast. Just talk about sports. It's really been more NFL centric, but we'll see where it goes to one day. Um, I'm recording this the Wednesday after the NFL divisional weekend, and was it a great weekend of football? I think that always goes without saying. It's something about playoff football, man, and it just, whether your team is in the mix or if they're not in the mix, it's always just a great time, honestly, to watch football because it's going to be great games, it's going to be great storylines, and there's going to be great players at the end of any day. And when those players perform, there's almost nothing better. And I think that just when you're a sports fan, or when you're just like a football fan, you love this time of year. There's people that get to take the days off. They have the weekends off so they can watch a game. There's people that listen to the games so they watch it at work. But no matter what, when you watch these games, these playoff games, you feel the energy that the games give off, and that's how it is for me every time this time of the year comes around. But nonetheless, we got to get straight into it. Just before that, just thank you for listening, thank you for watching, for those that do, and let's just get right into it. um Obviously, coming into this past weekend, of course, coming into this weekend, we had the first game on the slot was Houston going into Baltimore, the one seed. Houston winning the AFC South Championship, and then defeating the Broncos. I mean, not the Broncos. Oh my God, I'm thinking about the wrong team. I'm sorry. The Houston Texans beat the Browns. They beat the brakes off the Browns, honestly. And then obviously Baltimore, the one seed, coming into the playoffs. This is their first game. They rested most of their starters week 18 against Pittsburgh, which probably was a smart thing to do. You want to get your guys rested up. You can't afford any injuries, especially to a team that's had a lot of injuries going into the playoffs. So it's always something important to see. The biggest thing about this game was, okay, CJ Stroud the previous weekend against Cleveland, against the Cleveland Browns, who had a good defense, he diced them up pretty good. And, he got off to a big start. So the question was, can CJ Stroud do this again now that we know, even though the Texans defense is good, we know that they're not going to be able to put a lid over a Lamar Jackson-led Baltimore Ravens team for an entire game like they did to Joe Flacco-led Cleveland Browns team. So the challenge I would say the challenge was really up for CJ Stroud. It was for the defense, but CJ Stroud, in this quarterback-driven league, it's so important that your quarterback can kind of perform well. And before the game started, I said, this is going to be one of those games where CJ Stroud looks rather pedestrian as a quarterback. It's going to be one of those first games that CJ Stroud has where he looks like a rookie. And Baltimore's defense, Baltimore's crowd, it threw the entire Texans offense off of their game, honestly. Watching that game, the crowd was so into it. It was a lot of false start penalties, a lot of miscommunication on the Texans side, and Baltimore, they did what a great team does. They take advantage of Houston's mistakes, honestly. Okay, we're going to push you. Okay, as Houston, we are sent back 5 yards because of a false start, because of the crowd noise, because of that, not necessarily lack of communication, but not strong communication. It just felt like every drive that Houston had was starting off as a 1st and 15 or a 2nd and 15 or a 2nd and maybe sometimes even like a 2nd and 13, things like that. It just felt like their drives were always starting off like that. And CJ Stroud, he didn't really throw for too many stats. I'm actually going to pull up the stats now, but CJ Stroud, it's not that he played terrible because he didn't have any turnovers. Like CJ Stroud in himself, he threw for 175 yards, 19 for 13, and no turnovers, no fumbles, but the ball was not getting down the field, honestly. And in this game, you know, Houston's offense, it didn't look like they were, not that they weren't prepared. I never like to say that against, like, for a young team like the Houston Texans, they are. It's just they met their match essentially. And Houston's offense was only able to generate 3 points, because the final score of the game was 34-10 in Baltimore's favor. But that the Houston Texans, they scored a touchdown off of special teams to before halftime where they tied the score 10-10. And then in the second half, Baltimore just comes out and they ramrod them, essentially, as some would say. It was just a spectacular game from Lamar. It wasn't nothing where Lamar he threw for like 400 yards, because Lamar only had 152 yards, two passing touchdowns, 16 from 22 passing wise. And in that game, that's kind of moderate for a quarterback to do in a playoff game, because it's rare that you see in so many games where a quarterback is throwing for, in the playoffs at least, is throwing for 350 yards. Sometimes you just have to do what the defense is allowing you to do. But because whether you like it or not, Lamar in this game rushed for 100 yards on 11 carries and 2 rushing touchdowns. And really, Lamar just showed you why he is who he is, and why he is so hungry this time of year, why he feels so motivated. And he knows that this is a chance for him, honestly, because he hasn't been healthy for years. He hasn't played a full season in a couple years. And then top it off, the past seasons that he did get to play were always, came down to playoff struggles. So this game, you knew that Lamar, at some point, he just wanted to be able to take over. And that's what he did, honestly. And, the stats don't particularly wow you because of the final stats that he has, but they're sure as hell impressive, because if you can keep a game away from the other team, and for me, in my opinion, it doesn't matter how you do it, long as you do it, And that game was dominated by Baltimore, and the least you can say is what Lamar wasn't passing happy, but that's what the defense allow him to do. The defense allowed him to take a couple short passes. He had a couple deep shots, nothing too crazy, nothing like 45 plus yards or anything like that. But you got to kind of take the check downs. You got to take a couple of those 10-yard routes. You just got to kind of do what the other defense is allowing you to do. Nonetheless, if he's running the ball, Lamar is just so spectacular. He is so amazing, and it's every time I watch him, you love the game that you're seeing, because he has a great advantage of running the football, and then he also has a great advantage of passing the ball. The defense is always going to be in the mindset of, like, you have to pick your poison, Lamar. Do you want him to beat you through the air? Do you want him to beat you through the ground? And then the thing is that if you allow him to get to running the ball, then guess what's going to happen? If you begin to stack the box against Lamar, he's just going to throw the ball over the top of any of your linebackers. He's just going to say, hey, I can still throw the ball too, It was just a great game from Baltimore, a great game for Lamar. Baltimore's defense didn't come away with any turnovers, but their presence was felt. When you force as many punts as they did, or you force as many turnover on downs, Baltimore's defense is that good, And you just look back on it, you just say CJ Stroud, in the Texans, a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback to do what they did, a rookie head coach that is a defensive mind, what a year for the Houston Texans. And they played amazing. They played amazing up until this game. And one thing people would say is just like, it matters when you get to the playoffs, but they got a playoff win. And that's all you can ask for. In the first year, obviously, Houston doesn't have the greatest skill position players. They don't have as many parts on defenses as one team would like. But to do what they did with as young of a team, the future is bright, man. And You look at the division that they play in. It's a division that they can dominate. Maybe, I mean, who knows? But if the Houston Texans, if they sign like probably a big name wide receiver in free agency, maybe another cornerback to pair with Derek Stingley Jr., because their safeties are pretty good. That's what, because Baltimore wasn't really able to take the top off of the team of that defense. So the pass rushers, they're there. They're young. They're rookies, or in their third or fourth years maybe. So if you got to re-sign them, re-sign them. The linebackers played pretty good. It's just a matter of, just shoring up the other parts of this team. Maybe get C.J. Stroud an offensive line that isn't susceptible to penalties, that can communicate well with them, A veteran presence on the offensive line that just you feel stronger maybe, Just give that quarterback more confidence and everything. The running game for Houston, it was there, but, like when you get down so many points, you have to turn to passing the ball if you still want to have a fighting chance. So just a great season by the Texans, and obviously a great win by Baltimore. And you're in the mindset of like Baltimore did what they were supposed to do, and that's how division weekend started off. You got the 1 seed, had some time off, players fully rested. Obviously, it didn't. Another thing too, Baltimore is getting Mark Andrews back potentially this upcoming weekend. Just get healthy, play the game. If you can dominate, go ahead and dominate, but when you rest for 2 weeks, essentially, really 3 weeks, you could say, because the last time Baltimore played their stars was at Miami, the first game or the first weekend of the new year, you know what I mean? Was it even the first? Was that New Year's? I think it was New Year's Eve, I think, that they played Miami. At that point, rest everybody. There's going to be a little bit of rest. That's probably why Baltimore didn't dominate off the jump, but second half, you hold everybody accountable, make some plays, your team is there now. And, it was just nice to see, honestly. But, off to the second game that happened on Saturday, we have the Packers taking a visit to San Francisco. And let me tell you something, man. I'm a Bears fan. And I like the 49ers. I more so like the old school 49ers. This team right now is pretty good. I'm not the biggest fan in the world of them. But me being a Bears fan, I found myself rooting for the Packers because let me tell you, obviously Jordan Love, coming off the game he had in Dallas, played great. Aaron Jones had a great game, that game against Dallas too. I just, there is just something about a team that says, hey, we're going to get the ball. We have nothing to lose. So we're just going to go and just have fun playing football. And that's what it felt like the Packers did in that game. And granted being so, I'm looking at the score sheet right now, but this game was literally at the end of the third quarter, it was 21-14 in favor of Green Bay. And when you look at a game like that, where the 1 seed is on their heels, coming off of rest, you can say whatever you want to say, but when a team is showing its weakness through 3 quarters of football, only thing you can even say is that you would the way how I look at it, which is so weird, because I like San Francisco. I like them a lot. But when you are losing to the 7th seed at home, you're the 1 seed, and you are struggling to come back. Oh my God. Watch out, honestly. And I think that the Green Bay Packers showed the 49ers weakness a little bit. And that is, if you get up ahead on them, it's not comfortable, for San Fran teams, honestly. And, the game finished off with a great game-winning drive by Brock Purdy. He didn't throw the game-winning touchdown because CMC ran the ball in, but it took an effort. It took a big effort, honestly, to be able to pull this game out for San Francisco. And that's not good. in my opinion, because I know a win is a win in the playoffs, but the thing is you want to beat the bad teams. You want to dominate. It feels like, because that's what provides you with momentum against the next team that you have to play in the playoffs. Yeah, you can win this. You can win a little struggle game in the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. That's a win. A win is a win. But you don't want to show your next opponent any weaknesses or any vivid weaknesses. You want to show them like a little weakness, if anything. And just shout out to the year that Jordan Love had. Obviously the Packers lost, the Niners won, but let me tell you, it was something to see Jordan Love just have full control over the game. It feels like, not full control over the offense, and he played so phenomenal until that fourth quarter. It feels like, and then terrible clock management by him, because at the end of the game, about 52 seconds left to go on second down, when he has two timeouts, he throws the ball into double coverage when he could just threw the ball out of bounds because he was rolling out of the pocket. He was outside of the pocket by the time he threw. He throws a crossbody into double coverage. And let me tell you, that was his worst throw in about 4 months as a first-year starter. I couldn't believe it, man. I couldn't believe it, because seeing how he was balling out to that point in the game, even the interception that he threw earlier, where he threw the ball and he threw it up a little bit too high for his tight end Musgrave, and the ball fell into Dre Greenlaw's hands. Even then, he looked at himself like, that's on me. I threw the ball too high. And to make that last throw, it was just like, man, what the hell, Jordan? Like, you were balling, man. He took full responsibility of it, of course, but it was just like, wow. That's how the game ended, by him making the biggest no throw in football. It was insane to see. He still had a good game, but it's just like, man, you make that bad of a mistake. Oh my goodness. But the Packers they're in a good space, man. Matt LaFleur proved that, hey, it wasn't a fluke that Aaron Rodgers had 13-3, back-to-back 13-3 seasons under me. It's amazing to see, and you just want to see like what's next for him. But San Fran moves on to the NFC Championship. And I guess that's what matters most out of anything. Seems he had 2 rushing touchdowns, 17 carries for 98 yards. He played great. Deebo Samuel goes out that game. That's something to look out for. It's a little shoulder injury that he had earlier in the season, so we'll see if he's ready to go for NFC Championship. But man. Now to talk about the Sunday night doubleheader in terms of, first, let's go ahead and talk about the Buccaneers at the Lions. And watching this game, it was I didn't know who was gonna win, man, because it felt like every time that Detroit would score, it would just push Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers to be like, okay, we're gonna score the next drive, and we're gonna do it again. And he played great, man. Baker Mayfield, he threw the ball 41 times, completed 26 passes, around like 62% or so. 349 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. He threw a pick at the end of the game. One thing about me, I don't necessarily like counting those interceptions at the end of games a little bit. Yeah, they're game-losing interceptions, but there just gets to a point where you just have to say, hey, sometimes you gotta give your receivers a chance, and he gave his receiver a chance. It just, someone undercut the pass, I wouldn't say he threw it into double coverage. He threw the ball, and someone dropped back into it, because the ball was on target to his receiver that he was throwing to. I forgot who he's throwing it to the last play of the game, but man. But even then with the Buccaneers, man, I mean, Mike Evans had a hell of a game, man. Eight catches, 143 yards, and a tutty, man. Tutty in the fourth quarter, I think it was. Come on, man. I mean, Buccaneers played their asses off, man. I mean, and Detroit wins this game 31 to 23, but man, you just look at I sometimes I just you hate to see teams lose these games, you know. I always hear that on sports shows and everything. You just hate to see a team lose a game like this. But nonetheless, Jared Goff balled out, man. Almost had 300 yards. He had 287, 30 for 41 on passing attempts, two tutties. Jahmyr Gibbs got a touchdown. I think that David Montgomery had a touchdown too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, David Montgomery had a touchdown. Monra St. Brown, Tutty. You know, it's just Detroit, and you can feel it, man. Like whether you're a Detroit fan or not, you just feel the energy that Detroit is having this year because it's been so long since they have contended, and for this year, for them to be in the NFC Championship with a great chance to win. It's not like this is a fluke team that like this game Sunday night, this upcoming Sunday night, it's going to be a great game. And Detroit they have all the tools, man. They have the coaching, they have the quarterback that's fearless. They have a running game. They have wide receivers. They have a good tight end in Sam Laporta. Their defense is actually playing pretty good. I mean, you know, Detroit's defense has been a question mark all year, but they've been getting up in themselves. Their defense coordinator Aaron Glenn has been holding everybody more accountable and just demanding greatness out of them. And they have done this down the stretch, man. Their defense has been doing what they're supposed to been doing. Man, I mean, you can't say enough about Detroit and what they're experiencing right now. And you're so happy. Like, if you know any Detroit fans, you are happy for them because they've been fans that have sat through football purgatory. Minimal playoff appearances, no playoff wins, and they have two now, and they're in the NFC Championship. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people who weren't alive the last time the Lions were in the NFC Championship, and now they're back. You know, and it's great to see. You see all the people that are coming up, they're going to the game, they're showing love. Calvin Johnson is there. Peyton Manning is there, even though Peyton Manning never played for Detroit. He just loves going to football games. But you see him interacting with the fans and everything. And it's so good to see for the NFL to have a team that has been, I don't want to say terrible. They've been bad for years, though. To see them finally work themselves out of the shadow. Just shout out to Dan Campbell for changing the culture there, man. You know, everybody looked at him when he made when he was in that press conference saying that he's going to bite the kneecap off. But either way it goes, they'll be the last man standing. That mentality has gotten them back in the contending mix, not just the playoff mix, the contending mix. They are contending for a championship. They are one of the final four teams. There's nothing to say. There's nothing you can say about there's nothing negative you can say about the culture turnaround for Detroit. Dan Campbell might have just secured his spot as coach of the year, even though it's a regular season award. But to see how they're playing now, everybody's going to look at him and if he wins it, everybody's going to be like, he deserves it. If he doesn't win it, the only person you can say should be losing it to is DeMeco Ryans. That's it. And you just have to give them a shout out for that, honestly. But now to the final game of divisional weekend. Kansas City going into Buffalo. And I feel like this game lived up to everybody's expectations. I know everybody wants to see a shootout. But this is a game that I kind of say, like, hey, the quarterback just does what it takes to win the game, honestly. And, just to start off, like, Kansas City gets the better of Buffalo 27-24, but this is a game that you want to see, man. Just look at, if I'm just looking at the stats, right? This is how you know it's a good game, right? Every quarter, every quarter besides first quarter, a touchdown was scored, right? That's, team warm up to each other. And, the game plan is always going to change. Patrick Mahomes throws for 215 yards, 17 for 23. 70% of his passes, right? Something like that, something close to it. 2 tutties. Josh Allen throws for 186 yards, 26 for 39, 1 touchdown, right? But then you look at the other stats, right? Josh Allen, 12 carries, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns. A big touchdown run, too. I think it was like 44 yards or something like that. Great touchdown. Travis Kelce, he gets 2 touchdowns this game. 5 catches, 75 yards, 2 tutties. When the stars show up, and I know Stephon Diggs didn't show up, but when the stars show up for these games, that's all you can ask for. Because you're asking teams to, I know everybody wants to see a shootout, but you have to look at the defenses too, right? And you can't ignore the defenses is what I would really want to say. And the defenses played too. Josh Allen responsible for 3 touchdowns. It just feels like every time Josh Allen's in the playoffs, besides last year against Joe Burrow, he performs, man. He does whatever he can. And I feel like that's so important for a quarterback. And that's the leader of a team that you really want. You want your quarterback to be able to do whatever he can, honestly. There were just so many things that happened against Buffalo this game, right? You have the deep ball to Stephon Diggs that he drops. You have he threw a ball to Sheffield. I think it was Sheffield. That it was an accurate pass. I just think that Sheffield wasn't ready for the ball to be thrown in that vicinity, because Josh Allen, he threw the ball to his receiver's back shoulder, but his receiver was extending for the ball, That's a mistake. And then, the part of the last play of the game, one of the last plays that Buffalo had was a game where was a play where Chris Jones, he lines up over the left tackle Deion Dawkins, which he had not done all game. Throws the offensive line for a wrinkle, and you have to expect that as offensive line. But let me tell you, that play is like a play that only great defensive players make. To be able to bulldoze an offensive lineman back into a quarterback, to throw his throw off that is probably for a game-winning touchdown to Shakir over the middle of the end zone, to be able to throw a quarterback off with that bulldoze power to throw the offensive line back into him. Because people, they want to blame Josh Allen for not completing that throw accurately. But as someone that's watches football, someone that's played football, your quarterback yes, Josh Allen could have still made that throw. But when you're looking to throw off planting your back foot, come on, man. It's something that is so hard to do, man. That's not. And yes, Josh Allen is a professional. Yes, Josh Allen is one of the great passers in the game. But because essentially, Deion Dawkins, he's bumping his planted foot to make that throw. His back planted foot to make that throw, man. That's a hard pass to make when you're thrown off and you have to release the ball quickly so that way you don't take a sack. And you still want to make the play just to throw it. It's not an easy play to make, man. Most quarterbacks in that scenario, they fall when that happens to them because their back foot is thrown off. And the thing is with Josh Allen, when he has to make that throw, he's hurrying that throw up. He can't put all his strength into it. He can't put all his power into zipping that ball to the spot it needs to be. And that's why you see that pass was a little bit short of Shakir. And I don't know, man. I mean, people always want to slander the quarterback for that. I look at it as it's just an unfortunate play where the offensive line collapsed like that. Yes, he still had a chance to make the throw. Yes, he could have thrown the ball better. But in that moment, it is so tough, man. It's as if I look at it from the perspective of like, because I played basketball more than football, and I look at it from the perspective of you're at, your team is down 3, right? And you get the ball. They say someone gets the ball. Less than 2 seconds left. Nobody is particularly open, so you have to force a contested shot in order to tie the game. Force a contested 3 to tie the game. What do? You have to shoot the ball over the top of a defense. Now, yes, there are people that can make that 3, but it's an uncomfortable 3 no matter who you are, because not everybody elevates fully for their jump shot. Not every quarterback throws off of that foot that Josh Allen had to throw off of. Or I don't know. Like, it's sometimes you feel that pressure, man. I mean, you feel that pressure because there's been times, man, where you just see a quarterback just his throw is thrown off just a little bit. Yes, it happened at the worst time, but I can't say that. And there's not to put any blame on Deion Dawkins, and there's no blame to really go around. But I just look at plays like that, man. I just say you can't blame the quarterback. You can't blame the offense. You can't blame anything. That is a great play from Chris Jones. I just look at some plays, and I'm just like, that player right there made a great play. That's all it is. And obviously, the game ends the way it ends. Tyler Bass, kicker who has been accurate, to say the least, who is a power and accurate kicker, man. He can kick the ball from anywhere, it feels like, in Buffalo. He also is very accurate. I don't even think he missed a field goal over 40 yards to that point. But I don't know, man. And to see that, it's just unfortunate. It is just so unfortunate. And let me say this too. There's no guarantee that Buffalo would have forced overtime, or the Chiefs would not have still won that game, because at that point you're giving Patrick Mahomes a minute 42 to go down the field, and he has a timeout in his pocket. So who knows? Maybe it would have came down to another one of those games against Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, where whoever the last quarterback touched the ball wins. Maybe that's the case. But man, I don't know, man. I just look at a game like that, and I'm just like, it's just unfortunate that a great player who plays on defense was able to make a big play like that. Tyler Bass misses the kick wide right, something that haunts Buffalo Bills fans, because in the Super Bowl, I don't remember which Super Bowl it was, but the Super Bowl where the Bills faced off against the Giants, 1991, or is 1991, where the Bills faced off against the Giants. Scott Norvok, their kicker, misses a game-winning field goal in the Super Bowl wide right. So I don't know. It just you feel the pain, but it's part of football. It's part of football. Chiefs win that game 27-24, but man, like, you can't ask for better games than this, man. One thing that I will forever feel bad about, though, this guy, Tyler Bass, this kicker for Buffalo, he deletes all his social media because he starts to receive death threats. I get that fans are upset because maybe this was Josh Allen's best opportunity to get past Patrick Mahomes and get to the AFC Championship again. But I don't know. I don't like the aspect of like sending death threats or something, or even in the because I'm a Bears fan, right? Let me tell you, Tyler Bass, who's a good kicker, misses a kick, is not equivalent to Cody Parkey missing or double doinking a kick. Where people should have the right to be upset because Cody Parkey at that point of the year, he just didn't improve as a kicker that whole year. It was that 2019, I think it was 2019 playoffs. That's an instance where I say, hey, you can be vividly upset with someone. Tyler Bass has been making kicks all year, man. And another thing about that too is like if you've seen the kick, the kick is he's kicking it off of the right hash essentially. So he hooks, obviously he's turning the ball, he's putting the ball essentially, he's kicking it left. And just unfortunate because he unfortunately hooked the ball on that kick and with the wind essentially, because the ball look like it's on par to go through the uprights, and then it takes a hook back right, and I'm like, wow, that's so unfortunate. It's a kick that I think that he kicked the ball but didn't account for the wind. Because you see kicks where the kicker kicks an inaccurate pass, but he kicked it accurately. I just think he didn't account for the wind because it was a little bit windy, and maybe I think that for him, he didn't put enough power to, because it's for him a 40. What was it? A 40. Oh man, I can't even find it. I think it was it was a 43-yard field goal. I think it was. For him, that's money. So for him, he probably just like, okay, let me just make sure I have enough power. Let me, because in that scenario for him, who has a big leg, he doesn't need to put all his power to it. So let me make sure I go light power. I just want to focus more on the accuracy. But if you don't put enough power into that kick, that's a longer one. For him, 43 yards is easy money. But for him in that moment, he probably was just thinking, hey, let me make sure this is more accurate than anything. But he didn't account for the wind that's going to hook the ball in. It's unfortunate, but it's part of football. It's part of it. And, sometimes it's just those quick little moments just can, that one mistake of not accounting for the wind, because it wasn't very windy, but if you don't put enough power into that ball, the wind is going to take it because the ball is that high up in the air, and it's an outdoor stadium, you just feel bad, just because it's Buffalo, and, they have been punching the air for the longest and trying to get to a championship game again and just trying to get to the Super Bowl. It's unfortunate, but one thing too is just like, I just look at it from the perspective of, don't count Patrick Mahomes out, because even then like I said, Kansas City probably still could have won that game easily with 1:40 to go. Come on, man. I mean, they still could have probably won that game because it's Patrick Mahomes on the other sideline. One thing that I did take away from that game is that might have been Buffalo's last bite at the apple with their roster constructed the way that it is, because they have free agent safeties, they have a free agent backup wide or number 2 wide receiver that's probably going to get some money from somewhere else. And the thing is that in Buffalo, they need to bring in more people. I'm not 100% sure that how many people would be looking to go to Buffalo compared to like another team per se. Maybe like, I don't know, it's hard to think about at the moment, but Buffalo. Who knows how many people really want to go to Buffalo, and which players are actually going to say, "Hey, I'm going to leave my current team to go there." It's something to think about. I just hate it because Josh Allen is just such a great football player. He played a good game. He played a great game. It just came up short. He just came up short, and now it's like, excuse me. Now the idea of it is like, okay, what's next for Buffalo? Because they have a lot of contract situations, and another thing too, they have a lot of injuries, man. And it's, you look at some people's injuries, like, or you see the length of some players, right? Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, they've been in the league for a long time. Matt Milano, who got injured this year, he's been in the league for a long time. Is Tre'Davious White going to stay? They have Rasul Douglas under contract, but is Tre'Davious White going to stay? Now it's like the time is like, okay, are they going to look to start developing more young talent? Or are they going to try to keep the veterans that they have that require a lot more money? It's unfortunate, but it's part of football. Obviously, the AFC and NFC championships are set for this upcoming weekend. Kansas City going into Baltimore, Detroit going into San Francisco, and it's going to be another great week of football. But I'm not a Bills fan, but I feel for their families because this is the first time you get Patrick Mahomes in your house, and it's been so many times you just felt. I even felt, I didn't want to count Patrick Mahomes out, but I felt like Josh Allen could win this game finally. The odds aren't against him, because we all know that on the other side, there's always been a Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And this is the one time where it's just Travis Kelce to worry about. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, but Chiefs just get better, man. They just get better through the year goes on. And Buffalo is just now they're in a tough spot because, the Chiefs are at the top of the food chain. Baltimore is at the top of the food chain. Cincinnati, with Joe Burrow, top of the food chain. And it's like, is Josh Allen going to be the one that's left out from this? Because, we don't know what's going to happen this Sunday yet. But this will be Josh Allen has not been to the AFC Championship in 3 years. 4 years, maybe, you could say. 4 years because it's 2024 now. He hasn't been to the Super Bowl. He hasn't been to the AFC Championship in 4 years. Joe Burrow has done it twice. Patrick Mahomes has been in the Super Bowl every year since he started. In the AFC Championship, in the championship game, my apologies. Joe Burrow's been in the AFC Championship twice when he's healthy. His 2 healthy years, he was there. Patrick Mahomes, he's there every year, feels like. And Lamar Jackson just got to his first one. And it looks like there's going to be more to come. And now the question is, can Josh Allen get back to that point with the presently constructed roster? And I don't think that that's the case, and they're going to have to make a lot of moves, and there's going to have to be a lot of development. I'm going to leave it off at that, though. Once again, thank you guys for listening. Hope you guys enjoy football as much as me. I hope you guys are about to enjoy this upcoming championship weekend because it's going to be a good one. And, just keep being amazing out here. Thank you for listening once again, and I'll see you guys next week. Hopefully I'll see you guys with a couple shorts too on the weekend. So peace and love. Thank you guys.